Ciao ragazzi, buongiorno, come va? Tutto bene? Vedo che ci sono già molte persone, 43 persone. Ciao a tutti. So today we have a Q&A session for intermediate level. So that's what we are going to do. Please do let me know if you can hear me, if the sound is alright, if it's in sync. It looks out of sync here, but hopefully it's in sync. Allora, buongiorno a tutti o buonasera. Io sono Manu, questo è Italy Made Easy e io sono il vostro insegnante di italiano online. Allora, tutto a posto? Perfetto, è tutto a posto. Allora, cominciamo. Se avete domande, English. If you have any questions for the intermediate level, so not the basic stuff, but not the super fancy stuff, like, don't go crazy, just what's intermediate? Well, intermediate is usually imperfetto, passato prossimo, agreement of past participles, comparisons, that kind of stuff, okay? Not so much the expressions or the cool ways of saying things. That's more an advanced thing. Okay. You can ask your question in any language. I will be responding in English so that I can help the largest number of people, because if I did it in Italian, you might miss some of the explanation. Buonasera a tutti, buongiorno, come state? Guardate, qui c'è molta gente di qua che parla, tutte queste persone. Grazie mille, è bello vedervi. So, what's the first question? Let's see. Hopefully, I have the answer. Allora. How to use his and her. Yeah, I like this one. I like this one. When do you prefer sto andando instead of vado? That's an intermediate level question, yes. Propongo di spiegare vari usi della parola mica. I can think about that, yes. More advanced, I think. How do you say I thought so or I knew it will happen that way? That's a bit tricky. I can tell you what the sentence is, but I might not explain the whole thing because it is advanced. Oh, Carlos, thank you very much. Grazie mille. You start watching Friends to watch the lesson. It's good. Good. We like it. Ok. Benissimo. Ok, allora cominciamo. I'm going to go back to the first question, which was how to use his and her. Now, Harry, I thought so, pensavo di sì. Sì, if you want to say I thought so, the same way in English, you say pensavo di sì. I thought that it was so, yeah. So pensavo di sì, esatto. Is grammar a key part during spoken Italian? That's the hard thing to answer because the true answer is no. I mean, how many English speakers do you know who speak terrible grammar in English, but you still communicate? So it's not the most important part. Of course, it's nice if you can speak properly. I mean, I like proper language in any language, but it's not essential. The essential is that you can be understood and that you can understand them. That's the main thing. Okay, stop the question for a second. I'm getting too many. When you use the congiuntivo, okay, hold on. I'm going to answer the quick ones that I can answer quickly. What is guardami? Guardami means look at me. Guardami. It's an imperative, guarda, look, and then me to me. Matilda, qual è la differenza tra ragazzi e raga? Ragazzi, la parola is the Italian word for hey guys, and raga is the casual, trendy way in some parts of it to say the same thing. So it's slang. But it is the same thing. But you can only use it to address people. You can't say like my boys are 17 years old. If you're for your kids, you can't say that. Okay, stop the questions. Okay, there's so many. Hold on. I'm gonna go back to the initial ones because they're the first ones that were asked. Okay. Okay, Vinicius. you're Brazilian and you want to learn Italian, what's the best way since our languages are very similar? I would say, because I did the same for Portuguese, obviously. So I would say, because our languages are so similar, I would do one, understand how Italian is pronounced differently from Brazilian Portuguese, and then two, spend a couple of months in the grammar. I usually don't say do grammar, but because our languages are so similar, you want to get straight into the grammar, understand what's different, and then you're ready to go. As you go, you learn different ways of saying things in Italian. Okay? I'm going to go back to the initial questions, okay? Which was how to use his and her from Andrew. Andrew, I saw that yesterday was your first time watching the live show, so welcome, benvenuto. All right, so let me see. Okay, so her and is. So in English, these are possessive adjectives, meaning they used to specify the possession of something that belongs to him or to her. Okay. Well, that's a bit tricky. Because in English, her and him are many things. So if you're talking about possessive, so you mean to say her book and his book, the way it works in Italian is that the possessive, the equivalent of his and her, doesn't change gender based on the subject like it does in English. In English, we say her book because she's a lady and his book because he's a man. In Italian, we don't do that. We're going to use il suo or any variation of il suo, whether it's plural, il suo, or I suoi, la sua, or le sue. So we're going to use the third person possessive, one of those, but the gender is going to be based on the object. So we are going to say il suo libro. Whether it belongs to a man or a woman, we don't really care in Italian. So that means his book or her book. It's il suo libro. So when would you say la sua? Well, you would say la sua to mean la sua, his or her bag. That's because borsa is feminine, so it doesn't matter if it belongs to him or her. Okay. Now, so these are the possessives. So the main mistake or difference between English and Italian is choosing the gender of the possessive. Now, I'm not going to explain what all the words are. There's too many. You can look them up. But the idea is that you have to go with what they're possessing, not who they are. Okay, so that's the main difference. Then something else. If you are trying to say him and her as the object of a verb, like for example, I see him, I see her, that's a different story. So as the object, we have two words. Lo meaning him, la meaning her. But they go before the verb, not after the verb like you do in English. So in English you say, I see her. In Italian you would say io, which we don't say. La vedo, that means I see her. Io lo vedo, that means I see him. So you gotta be careful because English is a lot not simpler, but it's not simpler. But you can use the same word for many applications in English, whereas in Italian we have a specific one every time. So it's a little tricky because if you're thinking him and her as the object of the verb, then the words are lo for him and la for her. But there's a third case, which is when him and her are the indirect object. That means that they're receiving the actions. For example, I give a book to him, I give a book to her. In that case, we have a different set of words in Italian, and it's lui and lei, and it's going to be usually io do il libro a lui, I give the book to him, io do il libro a lei. So, basically, summing things up, you could have il suo and all the variations of il suo, la sua and all the variations of la sua, you could have lo, la, you could have lui or lei, and they all translate him and her, which is annoying, isn't it? Okay, so that was the first question. I'm going to go back to the second question that I accepted, which is ages ago. Hold on. Where are we? Okay. When do you prefer... Sorry, I'll show you. Nope. When do you prefer stop... You can't say it? No, you can't say it. Hold on. Oh. Okay. When do you prefer sto andando instead of vado? So the gerund against the present tense. Good question. Great question, actually. Sorry. So when do you prefer the gerund against the present tense? This applies to all tenses. So as in the past, in the future. Basically, in English we use the continuous form a lot. So we tend to say, I'm eating a sandwich, I'm going to the movies, I'll be seeing you tomorrow. We use the continuous form a lot. Whereas in Italian, it's very limited to the wanting to emphasize that you're doing something right now, as in right now, as in physically right now. So in English, you tend to say, I'm studying Italian. But in Italian, unless you're doing it right now, like you got the book in front of you, you got Manu in front of you, we don't tend to say sto studiando l'italiano, okay? We tend to say studio l'italiano. That's the generic statement because you're doing it generically speaking, not right now. That's the main difference. You can use the gerund in Italian, which is used by using any tense of stare, and then the gerund in Italian, which is usually the verb minus the ending plus ando or endo. So sto parlando, I am speaking. Sto bevendo, I am drinking. So when would you say sto parlando? Well, right now sto parlando, because I am really speaking. But usually it's tend to be said, let's say I'm speaking and you're trying to interrupt me, then I would turn around and say, scusa, sto parlando. Meaning, excuse me, but I'm right in the middle of speaking. That's when we use the gerund in Italian, okay? Grazie mille per la domanda. And I can't remember where it came from, but... so, let's have a look. What else? What did I say I would do? Mika, I'll leave it for an advanced lesson. It's a little bit too complicated. Okay, so, but Mika, the word Mika, is used with negative sentences. So it's like mai, never. Quindi, if you say io non parlo mai italiano, that means I never speak Italian. But if you say io non parlo mica italiano, that mica, it means, it's like saying it's not like I don't speak Italian. So that mica, it's often renders the idea of it's not like I do that. Io non conosco mica Michelle. It's not like I know Michelle, meaning I don't know, like it doesn't exist in English, really. I think in French it's like the point. I think there's something like that in French, if you know French, or if I remember French right. Okay, and then we had another one. Ooh. Alright, hold on. I've answered that one. There was one that I wanted to answer, which was... I thought so, no, we did that. I thought so, pensavo di sì. And I knew it would happen that way. This one is tough, okay? Sapevo che sarebbe andata così. So... no, hold on. Sapevo, I knew, che sarebbe andata, would have gone. And then così with an accent, I don't know if I got it, yeah. Sapevo che sarebbe andata così. This one is a bit complex because you're using the imperfetto with the past conditional. Not that hard, but you know. Okay, and let me see if I have another one. Okay, let me just check that everything is good internet-wise. Yes, we're lucky today. Okay. Okay. When plurals of core words become chi and when they stay chi, is there a general rule? Kind of, but go start with the exceptions. Amico, amici, yeah. Greco, greci. Basically, the idea is that it doesn't work all the time, but look at the stress of the syllable. If you have 3 syllables and the stress is on the third from the end, so like for example, now hold on, how was it? There was a rule I actually don't remember, so I'll revise it and I'll get back to you because what I was saying didn't quite work. Okay, just going very quickly through this so we can close this lesson. Okay, are slang and really a big deal since they are dependent of regions? So, in Italian we have general Italian slang that we just tend to say because it's just quicker, and then we have mostly slang that is based on the dialect. If it's a common dialect and it's like, you know, if somebody said raga and we don't say that in my region, you still understand it. So there are things that as an Italian you would understand even if there are slang from a different dialect, but if the slang is basically dialect, we're not gonna understand it. Not me, not you, so. Okay. Chris, Manu, from watching your videos mentioning using Google images from Google, as well as your recipe for pomodori col riso, yum, I have started to search for recipes in Italian. Benissimo, benissimo. Okay. Okay, Fran, this week I've been reading or listening. Questa settimana ho letto molto. Questa settimana ho ascoltato molto. We wouldn't use the ing in the past. Like, for example, in English you say I have been listening. In Italian we can't say sono stato ascoltando. Never say sono stato ascoltando. We can't say stuff like that. Sorry. Sono stato, and then the gerund, for example, mangiando, doesn't exist. You cannot say that. You can say stavo mangiando, which means I was eating, as in I was in the middle of eating when something happened. But yeah, you can't say sono stato and a gerund. It doesn't exist. Okay, and let's see. Ooh, 72 people. And the connection is still good. We should keep going. It's been quite rare to have good internet. Okay. Diane, what is the meaning of V? Oh, V has a million meanings. In most cases, it's got to do with you guys. So, for example, vi parlo, that V is a direct object. I speak to you guys. Vi parlo. Okay. Vi do un libro. In that case, that V is an indirect object. It means to you guys. It's still you, pretty much, yeah? So, and then you got the reflexive meaning. For example, vi lavate. You guys wash yourselves. Let's say vi parlate. That means you guys speak to each other. So that's reflexive or reciprocal. And then you have the one that you're thinking of that you don't quite understand. In Italia vi sono molte chiese. In Italy there are many churches. What this V is doing is simply being a synonym for the way more common ci. So ci sono and vi sono have the same meaning, V being old-fashioned or more literary, you know, prettier in a certain way. Okay, benissimo. And let's end it here, I think. Okay. Because I think you guys love this and it's very engaging for you while you're live, but I'm just wondering that when you watch the recording it might get a little bit too long, so I'll try and keep it a bit shorter. Grazie mille ragazzi, è stato un piacere vedervi. I shall see you tomorrow for another lesson. I might not see you because tomorrow will be for beginners, I think, but you know, I shall see you tomorrow or very soon. Also, I'm about to load a bunch of videos on YouTube that is going to be talking about expressions. They are mostly for beginners, but you might still enjoy them. Grazie mille ragazzi, un bacione e ci vediamo domani. Ciao ciao.